You're listening to the home of cool, irreverent, and entertaining talk, right here on LA Talk Radio. You're listening to The Art of Love with your host, Lucia, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome to The Art of Love. My name is Lucia. I'm your host and a dating and relationship expert. And I'm here to entertain, educate, and enlighten you about love, dating, and relationships. Take your live calls, answer your emails, and speak to authors of books which I find interesting. And today is an historic day for the Art of Love radio show. And I've always wanted to say ahistoric. Makes me sound more intelligent, because a lot of people think it's ahistoric, which obviously it's not. For the first time, I have a guest back for the third time. And if you've listened to my show regularly, then you'll know who he is. It's Frank Kermit. And I will bring him right on, and we're going to talk about today's topic, which is also something I've never talked about, and that is monogamy. And we're going to find out all there is to know. We're going to make it exciting. I know sometimes monogamy can say, well, it can be boring. We'll make it exciting. Hey, Frank, welcome back.
Lucia, it's been a long time. I have missed you.
It hasn't been that long.
Well, it feels like a long time.
I know. You've now become a regular. As I've already said, this is your third time on the show.
Lucia, I am so honored to be your first.
Yes.
Your first three-time guest.
Exactly. I don't know if I'll ever have another three-time guest. And it just, kind of happened. I wasn't meaning for it to happen. I really just try to have a guest on one time. But your first book, we talked about the emotional needs of men, which was great. And then, of course, I had to do the emotional needs of women. So that led you to being on a second time. And then, of course, you have this thing on monogamy. And that's why you're here today.
I look really forward to talking about monogamy today.
Yes. I don't usually talk about it. I barely do it, so I don't, why talk about it? But I figured. Well, I have like a lot of attitude about monogamy, as most of society probably does, and we'll get into that. But anyways, reading about your book or your CD Making Monogamy Work, it sounded exciting, so I thought, all right, I'll bring him back on. So just a brief bio here, in case someone is not familiar. Frank B. Kermit is a relationship expert, the author of numerous books and audio products, and is the producer and host of the Frank Talks radio show. He also runs an online relationship advice forum, as well as Frank Talks, Frank advice columns in magazines and websites. So, all right, let's define the difference between monogamy and commitment.
All right, with monogamy and commitment. In monogamy, you only have sex with one person. I think that's what people generally assume monogamy means. Commitment is when you are dedicating an incredible portion of your life, your time, your resources to one person. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that person is the only person you're going to be having sex with. And sometimes when it comes to commitment, sex isn't even a part of it. You can be committed to a member of your family, and there's nothing sexual about it.
Hopefully.
But there's still a commitment.
Right. Yeah, because I think a lot of people think they're the same thing. That's why I asked, because, just because someone agrees to be monogamous with you doesn't mean that they're committed to making the relationship work.
Exactly. Being monogamous is simply a relationship structure. It means you're only going to have sex with one person, and then, of course, rule number 2, you're not going to do anything that would potentially violate or threaten rule number 1. That's all monogamy means. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the person's madly in love with you. It doesn't necessarily mean that the person is going to plan a future with you. It's just a way of organizing their time so that they'll focus on you, get to know you, and find out whether or not you're compatible.
Oh, so it's just all about time management then? That's all it is?
It could be. For some people, it really could be. It's a matter of, I'm going to be monogamous with one person, meaning when I am free, that is the one person that I'm going to spend my time with to get to know, until I have a reason not to want to spend time with that person anymore.
Right. Okay, so then you said something very interesting. You said, whatever a relationship is based on, when that thing ends, your relationship ends.
That's right. That's why you never base your relationship on something that cannot stand a long-term existence. You never choose somebody just because of how they look right now, because over time, looks may fade.
Mm-hmm.
You never base it on their current status of health, because over time, health might fade. You never base it on something like how much money they're making in the moment, because over time, they might lose their job. They might not make as much money. If a relationship is based on things like that, and those things disappear, you'll have no incentive to continue the relationship long term. If, however, the relationship is based on a mutual understanding and respect of one another, the desire to see the other person do well, just wanting to be around the other person, those are the types of things that can carry on long term. This is why I think some relationship philosophies of, find somebody that you can have a good conversation with, because when everything else dies out, you at least want to have someone that you can talk to.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. And then you said monogamy must be earned. What does that mean?
Okay. Now, we're going to look at the two different types of way of approaching monogamy. There's the case where someone does see monogamy as a form of commitment, and they may be dating 2 or 3 people very casually, but they find someone and they say, that's the one person that I really want to spend more time with to find out if they're a great potential life partner for me. In that case, monogamy must be earned. It's not something you go in and say, well, I demand that you be monogamous with me, otherwise, take a hike. Let the monogamy be earned. Find out if you even want to spend that kind of intimate time with a person.
Mm-hmm.
The other way to look at it is the serial monogamous. That's the person who only wants to date one person at a time. But if you're going to take that path, you have to be very intense with your monogamy. You don't just see the person once a week. You try to see the person 2 or 3 times a week. Get to know them as soon as possible. Let it be an intense experience. Find out as soon as you can if you're compatible long term. And if you find out that you're not compatible, when it's time to break up, you don't go back.
Okay. Which then, of course, leads to, who does monogamy hurt more, men or women?
Okay, well, it hurts the person who really doesn't know what it is they want long term. That's the general rule.
Mm-hmm.
But if we had to pick a side, monogamy hurts women more than it hurts men. Simply put, women have a biological clock. If she is looking to start a family, if she is looking to get married, if she is looking to have children, she has a limited number of years where she can do it where the health risks are low. Then she has an even more limited number of years where she can start a family, start having children, but the health risks are even higher. And then at some point, she just doesn't have that option anymore. If she's staying in a monogamous relationship for, let's say, 5 or 6 years during those very crucial biological clock periods,
mm-hmm.
and she's not with the right person, and she's not even exploring the option. Some other guy comes up to her and says, hey, how about you and me go have a coffee? And she says, I can't. I have a boyfriend. Even though he might not be the right guy, she's still being faithful. She's still being monogamous. Well, if the relationship she's in doesn't work, and she only realizes, wow, he really was the wrong guy. If she really wanted to have children, she might miss out on a lot of opportunities, and all those potential suitors that came knocking on her door might be lost to her.
Right. Yeah.
And monogamous women more than it does men.
I totally agree. I mean, that's why there's like this new philosophy in dating, which I totally agree with, which the guys aren't too happy about, but too bad. And I say to women, listen, your sexuality is no longer the greatest thing you can give a guy, because everyone's having sex before marriage. It's now your exclusivity. So until you find a guy who wants what you want, meaning if you want marriage, he wants marriage with you, you do not become exclusive with anyone.
I agree with that. Nobody. One of the things I teach under my practice of ethical dating is that everyone has the right to seek out a soulmate without interference. Now, if you want to casually date somebody, maybe you enjoy the sex, maybe you enjoy the companionship, but you already know, oh, I really like this person, but this is not the person I want to have kids with. This is not the person I'm going to marry. Forcing any sort of exclusivity is unethical.
Mm-hmm.
Both of you need to be free to find your soulmate, because if somebody comes into your life and it turns out, wow, this is the most amazing person I've met and I want to explore this further. If you're being monogamous with somebody who you already know that you're not going to spend long term with, you're making a mistake. I completely agree with that premise that your exclusivity is the prize.
Yeah, and there was a book a few years ago, I think it was called Why Men Marry Some Women and Not Others, and they found in their study that women who were still single in their 40s, it was because they spent too much time with the wrong person in their 30s.
I would agree with that. Now, if those women had not been monogamous, because I'm assuming they were monogamous,
right,
gave up plenty of opportunities to meet new guys. If those women were not monogamous and they actually took the opportunity to have a date over here, a date over there, meet new people, chances are they would have found someone that wanted to be with them long term. And who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want to be loved? Who doesn't want, even if, and let's be honest here, okay? There are some people out there who don't want to have children.
Mm-hmm.
There's some people out there who don't want to start families. And with respect to them, they still want to be loved. They still want to have some type of intimacy, some type of sharing. So why be prevented from finding that kind of connection out of some sense of obligation when that obligation, that commitment, that monogamy was not earned?
Right. And then also, biological clock aside, for women, before the whole cougar thing came along, and even also for some women who aren't interested in dating younger guys, the fact remains that as women get older, guys tend to, again, before the whole cougar thing, not want to date with them. And so if they're not interested in dating younger guys, now they're in their 40s, it's going to be harder for them to find someone to date.
Absolutely, because even those guys who are, let's say, unsure about whether or not they want to have kids, they're more likely to date women who are younger just so that they have the option. It's just a matter of having the option.
Yeah, exactly.
For some guys, it really, that's the one mental block. They don't want to be in a situation where if I happen to fall in love and if I happen to really connect with this woman, well, I'll be in a position where I would want to have children with her, but I can't. So for some men, dating older women is just off the radar. I think it's unfair. I've had great relationships with women who were older than me. The fact is, though, that is an extra consideration that women have to be aware of.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned a term I had never heard of, the market of lust. What is that?
Market of lust. This is what I talk about when it comes to television, film, any sort of media. These sources are not education. They are entertainment. So much of what you are going to be marketed to, so much of what's being presented to you is to try and discourage people from being monogamous. Why? Because monogamous people, those people who have found a very committed relationship and are sexually faithful to one another, they tend to spend less money. People in healthy, monogamous relationships spend less money. Think of all the money that people spend to get attention of the opposite sex.
Right.
There's a huge industry. And if you're dating more than one person, well, you have to spend money on those dates. When I was dating multiple people at the same time, I would take, let's say, 3 or 4 different girls out to the same movie, the same date. So it's costing me money because the more people I'm dating, the more money I have to spend on each one. When people are in a monogamous relationship that is very emotionally healthy, there isn't that need to spend all that kind of money. They pretty much find certain happiness and fulfillment, and they don't look for other things to fill that gap because that void does not exist. But so much of the media, so much of the television and the film really push the idea that, oh no, you want to go out and have fun. You want to go out and it's okay to not be monogamous. It's okay to date around. And it's becoming acceptable to cheat because, hey, everybody does it. You should too.
Mm-hmm. And also, monogamy it's not really sexy, it's not really it doesn't sound that exciting.
Well, it's not going to sound sexy because monogamy takes work. You have to make your monogamy happen. And sometimes, like with one of my mentors of monogamy, and I wrote about this and I lectured about it in the seminar, he talked about how him and his wife, in their long-term monogamous relationship, used to schedule a date night. So, okay, there's not that much spontaneity because you know that every Thursday night or whatever that night is, you're going to take your partner who you've been with for the last 20 years and try to wine them and dine them and seduce them all over again. Yeah, it can be a little boring, and monogamy can be a bit of a turnoff because you're dealing with the same old. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of work to keep it interesting. Mm-hmm. That's part of the challenge.
Yeah.
But you got to remember, you're either looking for the excitement or you're looking to build a future.
Right.
If all you're looking for is the excitement, if that's the most important thing to you, the same character traits in a person that make them uber exciting are the same character traits that would make them a lousy long-term partner.
Right. Probably.
So I'll give you just a quick example, right? The person who's really, really exciting is completely unpredictable. Sometimes they're impulsive. They might do something like, wow, they've only got $7,000, but they'll spend $4,000 on some crazy idea just to make it happen. Wow, it's a lot of fun. When you're dating someone like that, it can be an exciting ride. But if you want to build a life with them and, own a home, pay off a mortgage, raise a couple of kids, all of a sudden spending $4,000 on a whim when you've only got $7,000 in the bank, that's not necessarily the type of personality that you're going to be able to build something with long term. Right.
Yeah, I totally agree. And getting back to keeping it exciting, I mean, it happens also in dating situations. Actually, just this morning I was reading an article in Cosmo about, they're saying, I think the title was, the kind of girl he wants. And it's like he wants girl A, which is the girl that he met at the beginning, and she was dressing in sexy clothes, and they dance all night and, do dirty dancing and then, make mad, passionate love. But then after becoming the girlfriend, then she morphs into, just wearing comfortable clothes, and they meet for dinner, and then they make love. And even in a dating situation, it starts to go off into not as exciting as in the beginning.
Exactly, and this was my point that I had brought up earlier. Whatever the relationship is based on, if you take away that element, the relationship is essentially doomed. That tells me that in that particular article in Cosmo, that relationship was based on the sexiness and the passion and the going out dirty dancing and all that. You can't base a long-term relationship on things that aren't going to continue. Here's the catch. Most people on those first couple of dates are doing a whole bunch of stuff to attract the other person. In my system, what you do to attract the person needs to be what you do to keep the person.
Right.
And if you aren't planning to do it on a regular basis for the rest of your life, don't even do it on the first date because you're presenting a false image. It's misleading. If you were buying a VCR that had all of these promises and it turns out when you took it home that, it didn't live up to the promises, you'd be going back to the store for a refund.
Well, hopefully you'd be getting a DVR, not a VCR.
VCR, DVR. I'm showing my age. I'm showing my technical numbnut. But you get what I'm saying.
Absolutely. So then what are the enemies of monogamy?
Now, this is up to the couple to decide what is and is not an enemy. Some of the potential threats of monogamy for one couple could be exactly what enhances the monogamy of another couple. So let's look at one specific example which draws in the most controversy. Viewing pornography. For one couple, let's say someone in the couple, it could be man, it could be the woman too, is viewing pornography. The other partner feels, you're viewing pornography because I'm not enough for you. You see it on the screen and now you're going to want to go out and try it with somebody else. And I feel threatened. I feel bad. I have low self-esteem. Another couple might say, I know things are getting a little stale for us. We've been with the same person for how many months, how many years. But if you watch pornography and it turns you on, and then you come and use that energy on me, we rekindle our love life. Hey, let's watch it together. Maybe we'll come up with some ideas. Maybe we can use it to give us ideas in role-playing.
Mm-hmm.
So the same action, viewing pornography, could threaten the monogamy of one couple because it might encourage one or both people in the couple to go out and try to live out that thing with someone else. It might be a marital aid to another couple that's using things just to spice it up so that they can use that energy with one another. What is an absolute threat? It really depends on how well you know yourself and how well you know your partner.
Uh-huh. So then is it possible, do you think, to prevent one's partner from being unfaithful?
I think there are ways to influence it.
Mm-hmm.
Look, the fact is, if someone really wants to be unfaithful for their own reasons, there's nothing you're going to be able to say or do to convince them otherwise. If they've already got it in their head that the solution to whatever problem they perceive is going out and being unfaithful, there's nothing you're going to be able to say or do to change their mind. However, there are ways to influence them to see that cheating on you is probably the worst thing that they could do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's look at some absolute rules, right? Let's say the ultimatum. If you cheat on me ever, the relationship is over. You know why most ultimatums don't work?
Because people don't follow through.
Exactly. And how does he or she know that the person won't follow through? Because they don't follow through on all other ultimatums.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever issue an ultimatum, even if it's something small, you have to follow through. Because if you follow through on the small stuff, you're going to follow through on the big stuff.
Uh-huh.
But if you don't follow through on the small stuff, if it's like, listen, if you do this, then, I'm not going to go on that trip with you, and the person does it and you still go on the trip with them, they pretty much know that your ultimatums really don't mean anything.
Right.
There are other things you can do and find out, okay, why would you cheat on me? Be very honest. What is it that you're getting over there that I'm not fulfilling for you over here? Once you figure out what it is that is not being fulfilled, that's when you're in a position to say, okay, let's see if we can fulfill that need between the two of us. If you can, monogamy works for you. If you can't, then you're going to have to make a choice. And that is to either end a relationship or find a way to restructure the relationship so that it may not be monogamous, but it's still a relationship that you can continue.
Okay. And then you talked about, you said, nobody cares about your monogamy but you. But I'm probably one of the few people, who isn't married or in a monogamous relationship who does care about other people's monogamy. If I know there's a girlfriend or a wife or a husband, whatever, it's like, I'm not going there.
Well, what do you mean? I don't understand the question.
That, that people don't respect other people's, monogamy.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I'm probably one of the few people who does, which, I would not have an affair with a married man or even someone who's dating someone else.
Okay, well, here's a question for you. If one of your girlfriends came up to you and told you that she was having an affair on her husband,
mm-hmm.
and would you cover for her?
Ah!
Now we get into the nitty-gritty. What would you do in that case? Your girlfriend says, I love my husband, he's great, he's wonderful, but he's just not attentive enough. I'm not having my needs fulfilled. I'm seeing this other guy, and it's just really on the lowdown. I never intend to leave my husband, but can you tell my husband that you and me were hanging out that afternoon while I'm with my lover? Thanks. You're such a good friend. What would you do?
You know what? I wouldn't tell him because their affair or her affair and their relationship is their business. And
okay, but would you cover for her?
I would. I'll be honest.
But then you don't respect other people's monogamy because you're covering for her.
Well, in the sense that I wouldn't do anything, but I can't go around saving everybody's relationship. It's like if you want to cheat, that's your business. But I'm not going to be directly involved, is what I'm saying. I'll be indirectly involved, apparently.
Okay, you're not directly involved.
Okay,
but
I'm
when
indirectly
you're covering for someone who is cheating, you are involved.
Well, I'm indirectly involved.
You're helping that person. You're helping that person violate the monogamy of their relationship.
You're right. But I think there's a difference between being directly involved means that I'm having sex with the person and being indirectly involved.
But you're still involved. Even if it's indirect, you're still involved. If you truly value monogamy of other people, then when someone comes up to you and says, will you cover for me? The answer is no.
But
I'm not going to snitch on you. I'm not going to tell your husband or your wife on you, but don't involve me in trying to cover it up. Leave me out of it.
Oh, okay. I was thinking that you were also saying, would I tell the husband?
Well, no. I mean, okay, you've already established you would not tell the husband.
Right.
But if the husband says, hey, do you know where my wife is, or was my wife with you on Sunday afternoon? If you turn around and say, oh, yeah, your wife was with me Sunday afternoon, you're just as involved in the deception as she is.
Right. In that case,
because you're covering for her.
Yeah, that's what I meant when I said I don't want to get involved in other people's relationships, meaning I would say, no, I would not actually cover for her. I'd say, do not use me as an excuse.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, I was jumping ahead thinking that you were going to ask me if if I would tell the husband, and I know I wouldn't.
Right. But in that case, in that situation, if let's say it's the woman calling me up and saying, listen, I think my husband is cheating on me, what can you tell me? My response to her is, you need to talk to your husband.
Right. That's what I'd say, too.
This really has nothing to do with me, and if you two are having problems, this is really not my business, unless, of course, you want to hire me as a consultant, a coach, then I can sit down with the two of you and we can work that out.
Might as well get some business out of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And hopefully I can help that couple that's in trouble by either bringing the affair, if there is one, out in the open into a situation of communication so that they can move on from it, or possibly making them realize that there's something missing in the relationship that's causing one of them to go elsewhere.
Yeah, definitely. But, okay. So, anyways, the point I was making was basically you're saying that you need to care about your own monogamy because no one else is going to. Exactly.
One of the mistakes that I made many, many years ago when before I got onto this journey is that I assumed that because I would value other people's monogamy and not be the other man and so on, that when I had a girlfriend and I would announce or introduce my girlfriend at the time to whoever, that they would also respect the monogamy. And that's not the case. Any guy or woman, for that matter, who's trying to be the other person in your relationship really doesn't care about respecting monogamy of your relationship. That's why you have to be proactive. So I've been on the other side of this too. Mm-hmm. I've been the other man as part of this journey. Not something I'm proud of, but something I did learn a lot about. I've had situations where the girl that I was with was being pursued by another guy, and I had to step in. In one case, the girl that I was with was being pursued by her boss. Mm. And, do you simply say, well, I trust her. Oh, well, I trust him. No, you got to step up and say, no, I'm going to draw the line here. In the case where the woman that I was with and her boss was hitting on her, I called up the boss on the phone. I did not call up in a threatening manner, but I said, listen, she and I just had a conversation, and you made this remark that, out of context, would not be an appropriate remark, so I'd really like to hear your side of it. And after I'd made that call, he really freaked out because most people don't confront.
That's right.
And the next thing I know, when she goes back to work, he says, why did you tell your boyfriend this? And she says, I tell my boyfriend everything. Every conversation I have with anybody else, I tell my boyfriend. We have that kind of communication going. He never bothered her again. Mm. Now, what did I do in my really, days of the past, where my girlfriend at the time would say, oh, I'm just going to go out to the movies with, so-and-so. She didn't necessarily tell me about it beforehand. She told me about it afterwards. And what ended up happening? When her and I broke up, guess who was one of the guys that she ended up dating?
Of course.
Hello. And I was shocked at the time. I can't believe it. Why would they do that? You know why I was shocked? Because I'm stupid. That's why I was shocked, because I'm stupid. Now I look back and I want to, it's like, if I could go back in time and give myself a smackdown, I would.
Not stupid. How about naive and trusting?
Okay, naive and trusting.
There.
That's a nice way to say stupid.
It shouldn't be. You should be able to be trusting, but, unfortunately.
Well, no. You don't trust people when it comes to things like monogamy. You have to stand up for what you believe in. Mm. I've also been, during my time on this journey, I remember being told, Well, no, if you start acting out, you're showing weakness, you're showing vulnerability, you're showing jealousy. Those are bad things. And that's why my girlfriend at the time went to the movies with some other guy who she ended up with.
Mm-hmm.
It's when I stepped up and said, no, let me be jealous. Let me be a bit insecure. You know what? I don't care. Because nobody gives a damn about the monogamy of my relationship more than me. It's impossible.
Yep.
That's why when I called up that boss in that second situation, and I had a conversation, out of context, what you said really, doesn't sound right. So can you please explain it? And he passed it off as, I was just joking. We were just having fun in the office. You understand that, right? Well, sure, I understand. But you've got to understand that you being her boss is inappropriate, et cetera, et cetera. Let's you and me settle this over the phone, in this way. We definitely don't want this getting out of hand, now do we? And, of course, it didn't get out of hand. Now, some people would say that I was needy, that I was being insecure, that I was jealous.
Mm-hmm.
I kept my relationship going.
Okay.
And the girl that I was with respected me more for having stood up for my boundaries.
Right, but then couldn't someone say, well, then you obviously don't trust her because it takes two to tango?
My feeling on that is it's not about my trust for her because she didn't do anything wrong. It's about enforcing my boundaries. And if the guy is making a pass at my girl and I've already established that her and I are in a monogamous relationship, he's crossed my boundaries. My issue is with him. Now, if I was a jerk, I'd be yelling and abusing her for the attention she got. Mm-hmm. But I'm not. I'm a man. I go to the guy and I say, this is my boundary. You were maybe a little gray on it. You're not gray about it anymore. It has nothing to do with whether or not I trust her. He's crossing a boundary. Here's the way I see it as a man. Yeah. My job is to keep my woman safe. Mm-hmm. If I'm sending her back to work in a situation where her boss has made a pass at her, she said no and he hasn't stopped, now I'm taking responsibility to make sure she remains safe.
Okay, got it.
And now there are people who will still interpret that as a sign of weakness. Part of being a man, I really don't care if other people think of me as weak or not. I don't need their approval. I need to protect what's mine, and that includes whatever monogamy I value.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Now, you also talked about, in presenting a united front, you said that you should each have each other access to each other's voicemail and password and email password and all that. Is that just if you're married or even if you're just dating monogamously?
Okay, well, if you're just dating casually, then no.
Not casually, but let's say monogamously dating for several years.
Okay, if you're monogamously dating for several years, the questions I have for you are you living together? Are you sharing expenses? Are you making investments together? A monogamous couple who's been dating for years but still hasn't gotten married. Do you own a house together? Do you share a bank account? Once you start getting into those type of things, you better damn well have everybody's password to all accounts and Facebook and telephone numbers and cell phones and you name it, you better have that. Mm-hmm. Here's the analogy that I like to use, and when I use this analogy, people click with it right away.
Okay.
If you were going to get into a business deal, and you're going to have a business partner, now that person doesn't share anything else of your life, but you do have a business together, you would want all the passwords, access codes to each other's business-related communication systems. I would have to assume so.
Yeah.
Okay. When you're getting emotionally involved and financially involved with another person, where it's not just your business life, but it's pretty much everything in life, including kids and retirement plans and deeds to the house and all of that other stuff. I mean, when it comes to a business, which is only a fraction of your life, people understand, well, of course you have to have everybody else's passwords. You want to make sure that everything's on the up and up. You want to, and that's when the light bulb goes on. Mm. If you need it for business, well, what about the rest of your life? As far as I'm concerned, a business can tank, and you could start a new business the next day. But when your relationship tanks and everything you've invested for, people lose their lives, access to their children, all their plans for retirement and when they, being able to stop working early and being able to travel and being able to enjoy their grandkids and all that stuff gets shattered. You have to rebuild the pieces. And when that for me is more important. And you're willing to say, no, I don't need the person's password for their cell phone. This is where I like to say again, hello.
Okay, but let's to play devil's advocate, it's like, well, I'm not going to marry someone that I can't trust, and so I don't need. If I trust him, then I don't need his password.
Okay, would you get into business with someone that, hey, you trust them, so you don't need passwords to the accounts and whatnot?
Well,
why do you still need it? Because you're responsible for whatever they do. You're on the hook for any mistake that they make.
Yes, but business, we're dealing with money, but in monogamy, you're not, if you keep the finances separate, then you're not dealing with money.
Yeah, but people who get married and have long-term relationships, the finances don't stay separate. You're going to be making payments on a house together, or you're going to be splitting the rent of an apartment. Both your names are on that lease. I mean, usually when you're in a relationship with somebody, everything is split down the middle. And if one of you goes into debt, the other one's on the hook for it.
Okay, so
Go
then you've got the passwords and everything. So does that mean you should be checking every once in a while, doing a spot check?
Personally, I don't believe you have to spot check.
Uh-huh.
It's the issue for me is am I being prevented from spot checking? It's when the husband or the wife says, no, I don't have to share it with you. That's the sign that there's something going on.
Mm-hmm.
Because people who have nothing to hide will open up the books and say, sure, go ahead, have a look.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do I think they should go spot checking? No. If, however, they feel the need to spot check, that's usually a symptom of the problem. The spot checking isn't the problem.
Mm-hmm.
If, let's say, it's a woman who, for some reason, she just is getting this feeling that she should really check her boyfriend's cell phone, listen, if there's something going on in that dynamic and she ends up trying to check his cell phone, it's not checking the cell phone that's going to ruin the relationship. It's the symptom that there was already a problem to begin with that made her want to check.
Right.
And let's face it here, okay? Let's assume it's a relationship where everything is on the up and up, and the other person is monogamous, has done nothing wrong. We're all human, and we're all going to have our moments of doubt. We're all going to have our moments of insecurity. We're all going to have a bad day when we just need some form of reassurance. And being able to check stuff like that, just so it confirms what you already believe, can make a world of difference in keeping your relationship intact long term.
Mm-hmm. And do you think if someone cheats once, regrets it, and knows they'll never do it again, should they tell their partner?
Well, here's my thinking on it. I have a firm belief that if you go ahead and cheat on your partner, chances are your partner is going to find out.
No.
Are you going to tell your friends? You might.
Mm.
And then one day, what happens when you have a fight with that friend? All of a sudden, your secrets aren't your secrets anymore. Or you tell your friend, and that friend tells another friend, and that tells another friend. Eventually, it will get back to your partner. I always believe that it's better they hear it from you than they hear it from someone else.
Mm.
And I can tell you this as a guy. I would much rather know that my girlfriend or my wife or whatever cheated on me. I would much rather that she be the one to tell me. Because if I find out from someone else, now not only do I have to deal with the infidelity, I also have to deal with the fact that I've been made a fool of all this time.
Okay, so what if you don't tell your girlfriends or your guy friends, and you just do it?
Even then, there's still one other person that knows what happened, the person you cheated with. And in today's day and age of hidden cameras, people keeping email records, you had Monica Lewinsky who mailed the dress to her mother, for God's sake. I mean, everything has the potential to come out. Whether it's a photo on the internet, you never know.
Mm-hmm.
My honest opinion on this is that if you cheat, be honest about it. If you can't get past that in the relationship, well, it wasn't a relationship that was going to survive other major traumas like death in the family and so on. And if you do make a mistake and realize, wow, it was a mistake, You have to find out what happened to get yourself into that situation to begin with. Because if those repeating behavior patterns don't change, you will cheat again.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, how does someone decide if they're ready to be monogamous?
Well, usually they would have to figure out what monogamy means to them. Why do they value monogamy? Do they value monogamy because by having only, a certain number of sexual partners, they limit their exposure to sexually transmitted diseases? Do they believe that being monogamous is akin to just being a good person? Is it a religious reason? Why do you value monogamy? Is it because you've tried dating multiple people, but you found one person you want to spend all of your time with and you enjoy spending time with them? You have to come to terms with why you want to be monogamous, and not just do it because, somebody suggested you be monogamous, because your family's putting pressure on you to be monogamous. Once you understand why you value monogamy, that is going to be motivation enough. And if you're still questioning it, then when in doubt, stay out. That's one of my frankisms. When in doubt, stay out.
That's
if you
cute.
have doubts about being monogamous for any reason, then don't promise monogamy. Don't promise something that you aren't going to follow through on. And that's not just in relationships, that's in all areas of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, let's say that you have decided to be monogamous. Then what do you do when you're attracted to other people?
You enjoy the attraction, and you use up the energy with your partner.
Mm-hmm.
One of my mentors taught me this great line, because we were in a discussion, and there was a woman in the room, and she was talking about how her boyfriend was going out to a strip club with his cousins, and she was just so mad, and how dare he. And my mentor just looked at her and said, look, it doesn't matter where he gets his appetite, as long as he goes home to eat.
Mm.
And that stuck with me, because I was very young at the time, and I was trying to figure this out as well. The fact is, you are going to be attracted to other people. It's not a question of if.
Yes.
You will be. Even people who are dating in open relationships, if you're into that thing, of course you're going to be attracted to all kinds of people. One of the reasons that people make so much money in Hollywood is because they're hot. People want to look at them. People get turned on by them. That's okay. We're human beings. No matter how much you love the person that you build your life with, you're going to get turned on by someone else. That's okay. You can feel the emotion, but you are responsible for controlling the behavior. Just because you're turned on by that guy across the street or the girl down the road doesn't mean you have to pursue them. Enjoy it. Wow, I'm feeling so randy right now. Saw a video, watched a movie, celebrity on TV, hey, person walking down the street, I feel so like I gotta be with somebody. Go to your partner, say, come on, I want to have a quickie.
Right, because they think that people are turned on by someone else, and they assume that they have to have sex with that person that's turning them on.
Exactly, and that's just not the case. You can be turned on by a variety of things, but when it comes time to act on it and to release that energy, that's when you find your monogamous partner.
Right. Okay. And then finally, how can one make monogamy last?
How can you make it last? I do have some suggestions. First of all, keep lines of communication open between the two of you at all times.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to embrace truth. Like we just talked about, okay, you're going to be turned on by all kinds of people. The strongest monogamous couples out there are the ones who can be completely honest and say, wow, I really love you, but there's that person on TV who really turns me on. And say, oh, really, what turns you on about that person? Oh, I really like this, I really like that. You have to be able to handle that type of honest discussion. Mm-hmm. If you're afraid of hearing truth, you're going to create an environment where the only thing people are going to tell you are lies.
Right.
You can't build a future on lies. So keep that honest communication going. Mm-hmm. Number 2, find out what the other person's emotional needs are and address them. And specifically, find out if they have sexual needs. Find out if they need a certain type of variety. Find out if they just, your partner might be afraid to approach you and say, I would really like to try using a sex toy with us. I would really like to try, having a marital aid. I would really like to try bathing together. Some people feel that sex is so taboo that they're afraid to discuss some fun things like, how about we bring one of those little cup of cut up fruit, and we spill it on each other's bodies and eat it up. And people are afraid to suggest that because they don't want to be rejected for something that is part of their sexual makeup.
Mm-hmm.
And if your particular partner has a thing where they want to be spanked or they want to be tied up or they want to explore some of that, be willing to explore with your partner. You really want to keep your partner monogamous and with you long term, then whatever sexual interest that they have, even if it's something they just want to try that one time, just so they know what it is that's out there, well, be willing to try it with them. Because if you're not, you're pushing them to be non-monogamous with you.
Right. Yeah, because I know a lot of guys, they have like foot fetishes, and I'm very open with discussing everything, and so they'll discuss it with me, but then I'll say, well, does your girlfriend, does she know about that? And I'm like, oh, no, I could never tell her.
Well, then they shouldn't even be with that person. If you can't be open and honest, all you're doing is wasting your time, because at some point, that truth is going to come out. It's better it comes out earlier in the relationship and, the person finds out, okay, can you handle this or not? You want a popular media reference for this?
Mm-hmm.
A really good one is the movie Ed Wood,
mm-hmm.
About that director who had a cult following.
Mm-hmm.
He was a transvestite. He was married, according to the movie, I don't know his story personally, but according to the movie, he was with his wife for many years, but he never revealed that part of himself to her. Mm. When he finally did and said, yes, I'd like to dress up in women's clothing, it was just something that she could not handle, and part of it was the betrayal she felt that he had kept this type of secret from her for so many years. How could she possibly trust him after that, on anything? Their marriage eventually dissolved. Mm. In the movie, you see him meet a new girl, and he starts to get to know her, and on a first date, he tells her right off the bat, I like to dress up in women's clothing, and I really like you, and I don't want this to interfere with us in the future. She was in a position to say, well, I don't understand it, but okay, let's see if we can make it work. And that's the exact type of thing. If you're looking for long-term success, forget about, skipping out on the short-term pains. It just doesn't work.
Right. Okay, and then did you have any other tips for making monogamy last?
Make sure that you take time out to seduce and woo over and over again. If you have to schedule it, like every Friday night is your night to go out and have sex with your partner, even if you don't want to, even if you're mad because you had a fight 3 days ago because somebody left the toilet seat up or put it down, or the toilet paper roll is on the overside instead of hanging down for the back. Even if in that moment you're really angry, you go out and you still commit to the behavior. Because you're not, when it comes to monogamy, you're not committed to the person. Mm-mm. You're committed to the concept of monogamy. It is your commitment to commitment that is going to help your relationship survive. Because you're not going to, even if you love the person, you won't like them all the time. You're human.
Yes.
Your partner is human. There are going to be days when you just
want to kill them.
Yeah, and you do want to kill them.
Really?
And hopefully you're smart enough to just, go for a walk, have a beer, or do something else in that moment.
Right.
But you got to remember that you are committed to the relationship, and in order for the relationship to survive, sometimes, you're going to have to do things you don't want to do. And if you're really angry with your partner, that might include going ahead and wooing them, trying to get intimate with them. And, of course, if you're in that process and you're struggling with it, you fight. Good, you get it out of your system. Now you're hot and heavy because you just fought. Now you can have great makeup sex.
Okay, and on that note, so your website is franktalks.com. You've got all your wonderful products for sale on there. And this CD, it's just a CD, right?
It's a 4-CD set.
Yeah, it's Making Monogamy Work When One Is All You Need. And that's Frank B. Kermit. Well, thank you so much for being on again. It was wonderful, as usual.
Lucia, I am so proud to be the only person you've had on 3 times. And my hope is that sometime next year you're going to say, Frank, how'd you like to be on a 4th time? And I will say, yes!
Well, who said it's going to be next year? It might be this year.
Anytime. If you need me, I will be there.
Well, thank you so much, and you're always a great guest. Thanks for being on.
You are my most favorite Lucia in the whole wide world.
I'm probably the only one, Lucia you know.
Details. Don't get cut down on the details.
Exactly. Okay, take care. Talk to you later.
You too. Be well.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. Especially when he cornered me about that whole, are you going to tell the person's husband? Luckily, I misunderstood what he was saying. Whew, save myself there. Okay, at least I'm honest, right? At least I'm not going to lie and go, oh, of course I'll tell, blah, blah, blah. I always do the right thing. No, I'm going to be honest. Okay, so my website is theartoflove.net, where you can sign up for my free weekly newsletter. My book is available at lessonsoflove.net, and that is Lucia's Lessons of Love, and expert answers the most asked dating and relationship questions. I really like the sound of this mic today. I hope it sounds like this next week. Kind of like I have a bit of a cold. All right, and until next time, remember that love inspires, empowers, uplifts, and enlightens.
You're listening to The Art of Love with your host, Lucia, right here on LA Talk Radio.